Hey, I'm Michael Edward, creator of How to Crush Your Mental Blocks in 4 weeks. That's a course where we take you and we try to identify what your mental blocks are that's holding you back, and then we crush them. It's pretty much that simple. Now, I have some questions for you. If you are in a place right now where you are in a bit of a rut and you are a little bit afraid of asking questions of people, or you just don't seem to have quite the amount of courage that you need to proceed with achieving your dreams, right? Reaching your level of success, as I always say. Then perhaps we need to work a bit on courage. Let's talk about courage today. Let's go over 5 points that can help you raise your level of courage. Because I think that when we do have a higher level of courage, and I'm not talking about, running into burning buildings and so on. I'm talking about everyday, courageous action. Being not bold, but willing to take the action that you need to take in order to reach your level of success. And that takes courage. All right? The 5 points that I'm going to discuss today all take courage. So get your pen and paper ready, and we'll talk about these 5 points, see what you think about them, and see how you can incorporate them into your life so that you can move on and reach your level of success and have a happier life. Okay, number 1 is have perspective. Now, what do I mean by perspective in this scenario? What I'm talking about is you need to know what you want. Right? If you know what you want, then you're ahead of the game. But you need to keep it in the forefront of your mind, right? You have to be here. And you have to live it here, in your mind, in your heart. But if it's not in perspective, if it's not clarity, if it's not there as being one of the biggest things that you think about the most all day long, then it's just not going to happen. Okay? And it's such a bad waste to see people with great intention that don't follow. I was like this. You know my story, right? I'm blind. I'm over half deaf, and that had its own challenges. And then when I was working for the big organization, I blew my thumbs in both my hands, using the screen reading software the way I do to use the computer the way I did for the job. And, it was just another disability that made things harder for me, right? And all this was happening all at the same time. I was going to lose my job, which meant a lot of stuff was going to happen there. Plus, I was losing my family. So, it was a bad time in my life. I was going to lose my house. I was going to lose all my possessions and have to start all over again from scratch. And I had no idea what the hell I was going to do, Anyway, I needed to focus on what it was. I needed to get it into perspective, what it was that I wanted to do, and generate the energy around that so that I could be what I wanted to be, so I could become who I wanted to become, right? So I could do the things that I wanted to do and rebuild a successful life again, right? Reach my level of success. So that's a bit about perspective. And the other thing I'm going to mention here too is that part of keeping things in line means that just because somebody asks you to do something doesn't mean you have to do it. And I'm a sucker for this, right? I'm a sucker for, Michael, I need help. I'm there. And I think most of us are. I think most people are so willing to help other people and do more for other people than they are themselves that they forget about themselves. And here's where we're back to the perspective thing. You need to keep in perspective what it is that you want to do. And I'm not saying don't help other people. What I'm saying is you need to evaluate. Is this going to help me reach my level of success, yes or no? If the answer is no, which it probably will be, then you need to say, is this going to inhibit me from reaching my level of success? If the answer is yes to that, then think seriously about saying no. You need to say no to people more often if you're in a scenario where you're getting asked a lot of you all the time. Okay? When I was in the big organization, there was a lady that worked a couple of desks over from me. She was phenomenal, and everybody knew that no matter what she was doing, she would drop it to help. Well, poor woman never got her work done. She was just had a lineup at her desk. And I finally said to her, I said, no, there's a better way of doing this. Let's sit down and figure it out. And we did. But the point is that she was so stressed because she wasn't able to get her work done, but she was able to help other people get their work done. So it was killing everything from her stats. The team leader looks at her stats and they were gone. They weren't any. So apply that to your situation and see how you can best fit it into your situation. Number 2 is ask for help or support as needed. Okay? And I think we don't do this a lot. I don't think we talk to each other enough. I don't think we ask each other enough questions. And people are afraid to ask or just don't take the time. And, in order to be courageous, you have to have the courage to ask questions and say, what is it that you want? You think about you and your partner. Right? How many years have you been together? And maybe back when you first started dating and all that, you knew what each other wanted then. But do you know what each other wants now? Probably not. Because our needs change, our wants change as we age, right? As we grow, as we learn. So in order to know what each other wants, you need to talk about it. You need to share it. Get some idea, right? And I think that's really good for developing a very successful relationship and making sure that you focus on the common goals that you have. There's nothing wrong with having your own goals. Nothing wrong with that at all. But you do want to share the common goals and talk about them and focus on them. And it takes courage to say, hey, you know what? What do you want? And they're going to go, what? What are you talking about? And they, but you get down to it again. And you say, remember when we used to, walk and hold hands and talk and all that, and we talked and talked and talked. And now I want to know, what are your dreams? What do you want? What are your goals? And if you don't have any, let's get some. Let's make some up. So that's a big part of it. And the other part of it is you also need to ask whatever higher power you believe in, be it God, the universe, put it out there. Ask the universe. Ask God. Say, God, help me with whatever. Hey, universe, I'll do a whole session on law of attraction sometime. It's a phenomenal subject. I think it's worthy of some study. I think we should all know a little bit about law of attraction. And when you are working with anybody who's a good coach, they all teach law of attraction. They just don't call it law of attraction. But we all talk about the same sort of subjects because those that are covered under law of attraction are universal. Like feeling good all the time. If you're not feeling good all the time, then you're not going to attract good things. Okay? So anyway, I'm not going to go down the road of law of attraction too much right now, other than to say, put it out there, think about what you want, ask the universe or your higher power for assistance, and wait and see what the answer comes back and how it's going to come back. It's always fun. It's really cool to see what happens. You ask for something today, boom, you might just get an email later on today. You might get an email tomorrow. You might get a phone call from an old friend. You might run into somebody who introduces you to somebody else who has exactly what you want, right? And I've had this happen countless times in my life. And, you know, it's just so fun to see how things are going to work out. Number 3 is, let's get pumped up, all right? Let's start looking at the goals. Yeah, I know, I seem to talk about goals all the time. It's because they're so important. Because if you don't have anything to shoot for, what are you shooting for, right? Anyway, what we need to do is to take the goals that we have, and we may need to make them bigger or rewrite new goals because we've already achieved the last ones, right? And if you haven't done the goal exercise, get on it, do it. There's tons of information out there. I've got other videos to talk about goals. I'm not going to go down to the how to do the goal thing, other than to tell you this. Have categories of goals. And you can make as many categories as you want. Finance, fitness, health, relationship, right? You can have relationship goals for your partner, for children, for work, relationships, etc. All right? So when we have a goal and we make it a little bit bigger, a little bit harder to achieve, right? It helps drive us. It helps us get into a learning mode where we're learning new things in order to reach a new level, right? It's easy to say, okay, relationship. I want to have a better relationship with my partner, but I'm not going to do a damn thing to change it, right? Hello? What are you going to do to change it? Well, what actions are you going to take? You got to have something. You got to give a little something if you want something to improve, all right? I hope that makes sense to you. So make the dream bigger. Make it challenging. With challenge comes more energy, with excitement, and so forth. So go ahead and do that. Get pumped up. Number 4 is a tough one. Number 4 is self-evaluation. And what we're talking about here is honesty with yourself, being honest, and really evaluating where you are right now and rating yourself from 1 to 5, 1 to 10, whatever numbers you want. 5 or 10 being really, really good, and 1 or 0 being gone. So this takes a lot of courage, because we're not talking about pointing fingers here. We're not talking about blame here. We're not talking about self-recrimination here. What we're talking about is, where are we now in the grand scheme of things? Where am I in my relationship? Am I putting forth a 10, or am I only putting forth a 3? You know, am I satisfied with my relationship right now? Is that 3 or 4 or 5 or 6? And then you can better evaluate what you need to do to make it better. All right? And this is tough. And if you really want to go down the road and really be courageous, then you need to ask other people what they think. So if you evaluate yourself on something, and, you know, relationship, and you might say, how is my marital relationship? And if you find it's a 7 or an 8, you might just ask your spouse and say, hey, you know what? I know I'm stepping on a limb here, but how do you feel our relationship is going? And if they just say, oh, it's fine. Well, fine is fine, right? But put a number to it. Ask him or her to put a number to it. And then when you have the number, you can decide between the two of you whether it requires more effort, whether it requires more work to make it better. And then you can start taking action again. We're back into the action side of things, right? But first you need to evaluate where you are in order to determine the action that's necessary to take later. Okay? Hope that one serves you, because that's a tough one, and it does take a lot of courage. No question about it. Number 5 is being present in the moment. And being present in the moment can mean a few things. It can mean just enjoying what's going on around you and being certain that what's going on around you goes along with your ethics and your dreams, is what I'm doing right now leading me to my dream. And incidentally, I just want to make sure that I'm not confusing things here, because sometimes people think that when I talk, I'm talking strictly about production, and I'm talking that, boy, I got to be working on my dream 24/7. No, that's not true at all. What you need to do is you need to have recreational time, you need to have fun time, you need to have relationship time, you need to have human interaction time, etc. But you do need to be in the present. And that's what I'm talking about when you're on the, when you're snuggled up to your partner, you need to put other things out of your head and focus on the partner. All right? But by the same token, you're going to be in all kinds of different situations. And if you're in a situation where somebody says something that's just absolutely totally inappropriate, it totally goes against you, you have a couple of options here. You don't have to try and dictate your beliefs onto somebody else. Frankly, I don't think you ever should, because it's their beliefs. Here's what I'm getting at, is the flip side of this. Nobody should be dictating their beliefs to you either. Okay? You should be able to decide what's important to you. Now, if you say something inappropriate, it's inappropriate. I mean, that's all there is to it. And I know I've done that too many times. You just apologize and move on. But if somebody says something to try and change your belief or challenge your belief, and it's your belief, you got the right to keep it or discard it. So all I'm saying here is that stay with your belief, stay in the moment with what's going on, and don't turtle up. Don't stick your head in the shell and say, you know what, I can't deal with this. No, you gotta deal with it. If it's negative, deal with it. If it's positive, deal with it. You just deal with the things in different ways, right? You enjoy it or you don't enjoy it. But you need to be there. You need to be aware of what's going on around you all the time. And you need to be aware of what it is that you're trying to do. All right? I hope that makes some sense. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I am Michael Edward from mepersonaldevelopment.com. You can join on my email list there. You can join up with my Facebook stuff. You can subscribe to the YouTube. Love to have you. Love to teach you. And I want you to go out there, enjoy every day, love as much as you can, and succeed.